Howdy, folks, and welcome to another edition of Clary's Corner. I'm your host, Heath Clary. Have a huge guest for you today, and it's new head coach at Texas A&M, Jim Schlossnagle, made the decision that was surprising to a lot of people to leave TCU, a place that he had a long and illustrious career at, that spanned 18 years, went to several College World Series, spanning a lot of great players that he had, sent a lot to the professional ranks in Major League Baseball. We have a long, winding conversation, hit a lot of high points, a lot of great topics. But before we get into that great discussion, I wanted to give a little tribute to Rob Childress, who after 16 years, it was decided that he would not return as the head coach of A&M. He accomplished a lot during his 16 years on the field. Went to the postseason all but 2 of those years, which all the coaches I talked to can't say enough about that kind of consistency and the winning culture that it takes to make the postseason 14 out of 16 years, not missing a regional other than the first and the last year of his tenure, which is an incredible accomplishment. 6 super regional appearances, 2 Omaha runs, and several other of those super regional seasons ended prematurely, but they were teams that could have gone further, and I think would have done some serious damage in Omaha had they been able to get through the super regional, and a lot of those came to end at the hands of TCU and Jim Schlossnagle. So Rob Childress, but off the field, he was I had the honor to be around him quite a bit. He gave me the opportunity of a lifetime to shadow the 2019 A&M baseball team, where I wrote my first book about the ins and outs of a big-time college baseball season and kind of what it is like going up the ups and downs of a 56-game schedule in the ever-competitive Southeastern Conference. So can't say enough about Rob Childress. He's truly one of the best men I've had the honor to be around. We have a great relationship. He actually was very instrumental in my job in the business world. He opened that door for me when he didn't have to. I wasn't even one of his players, but he gave me a sterling recommendation, and I was hired. And he told that guy at one point, "You got to hire one of my guys." And he saw me as one of his guys, even though I never suited up one inning for him. So Rob Childress, can't say enough about him. I wish him the best of luck in whatever he has going forward, whether it's coaching or personally outside of the game of baseball. But getting back to the Schlossnagle interview, we hit a lot of good points. I feel like I asked him a lot of good questions. He was very generous with his time and expounded on a lot of good ideas. And I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Enjoy the show.
Heath Clary. Heath did something no man had ever done before. Walk in and coach the college baseball team, say, "Coach, can I go wherever you guys go?" Travel some, be around the entire team, and then document it all. Clubhouse, dugout.
But it was a great team with a lot of talent, and like I said, I think all those guys will play in the big leagues pretty soon. All right, we got our next guest on Clary's Corner, new Texas A&M head coach, Jim Schlossnagle. How's it going, Coach?
Going great, man. Thanks for having me, Heath.
Yep. How's your first few months at Texas A&M? How's that been going?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been certainly been a whirlwind of work and emotion. Certainly, leaving TCU, I have great respect for TCU, and I love Fort Worth, and invested 18 years of my life at TCU, and both my children still go to school there. So my affinity and love for that place is that hasn't changed, but certainly the opportunity to come to Texas A&M, be a part of the SEC, specifically the SEC West, and everything that entails, at this point in my life was something that I really wanted to dive into. And that transition, certainly wasn't easy emotionally or physically, but it's been great. And the last week or so, week to 10 days, have been able to at least be in College Station for a consistent amount of time and get settled in the office and have our staff together and get ready to, not just continue recruiting, which that's never ending, but get ready to coach this team. So finally get to do the baseball stuff. We're getting close. We'll start that next week. But just really excited to be here.
Yeah, you mentioned the SEC West. I think most people would say the best conference in college baseball, or at least side of the conference. What are you hoping for specifically from that challenge, and why was that such a big deal to you?
Well, I mean, I'm 51 years old. I'm not sure. I certainly want to coach into my 60s, but beyond that, I'm not sure. And so I just wanted to have a chance to compete against the very best, be a part of those atmospheres. No disrespect to the Big 12 or any other conference that I've been a part of. That college baseball is played at a very high level in a lot of places, but just the avid fan base at every school and the competition against the very best. So check back with me in maybe May and see how I feel about it. But I'm excited, and I certainly have great respect for all the coaches on both sides of the SEC. But when you're talking about Arkansas and Ole Miss and Mississippi State and LSU, Alabama, everybody, it's just I'm looking forward to the life experience, and certainly we want to win ball games. We want to compete for championships, and that's what we fully intend to do.
Yeah, I mean, the Big 12 is definitely still really good. What about from recruiting? How is that going to be different? SEC, kind of that southeast region of the United States. Is it any different from when you were at TCU?
Well, it's vastly different simply because you got a private school at TCU that costs over $70,000 a year. And then you have a public school at Texas A&M that in-state, tuition is under $9,000. So yeah, that's a big change for me after spending 26 years at a private school, 18 at TCU, 8 at Tulane, to have the opportunity to, deal with a less expensive cost that at least in-state that helps. And then, a place like Texas A&M, 70,000 students, over 500,000 former students. This is a place that people grow up wanting to go to school to. And when at TCU, a school of 9,000 students, there's certainly a lot of people that would like to go there, but because of the cost and the size of the school, there's just in numbers, it's not comparable. So it's been great. The reception on the road with recruits and summer coaches and high school coaches has been great. This was already an outstanding program. Coach Childress, he's one of only 3 coaches, I think, in the last 50 or 60 years, and he's to be celebrated here. He's a championship coach. Went to 13 consecutive NCAA tournaments, which is mind-boggling, especially in this conference. And so the job he did, the foundation that he was a part of laying is something that I hope we can live up to and try and certainly, try to build on. But so the recruiting, the response has been great, but we're certainly swimming in a very deep pool.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to have better players than the schools we've talked about. You just want to have as good of players, and then let the baseball stuff, and hopefully you stay healthy and let the baseball take care of itself.
Yeah, I used to talk to Justin Seeley all the time about this kind of deal. Is it a different? I mean, I know there's pros and cons of both public and private. Can you get a different type of player at A&M without the financial stuff, or does that change at all?
Well, I think you can get more of the good players. Like, at TCU, because of the cost, your depth of talent wasn't going to be what it can be at a state university because for those elite players, we can only make it affordable at TCU for so many. And some of that's changed a little bit. The financial aid rules now have lessened a little bit and will allow private schools or any school to combine need-based aid and baseball scholarships. So that'll help the private universities specifically. But here, our team should look the part, kind of like our football team now looks the part of an elite SEC program. At some point, the baseball team, should look the part, and maybe it does this year. I don't know. I haven't seen a whole lot of baseball or any baseball from our current team. That all starts next week. But our job is to put a competitive group of guys on the field, coach them up, and then let the chips fall where they may. And I'm fully confident that we will be able to do that.
Yeah, you've been through a few coaching transitions in your career, not one in a while. What's this one been like for you? I mean, getting into your new school, just the basic stuff like new office, place to live, the posters on the walls that I used to always see. What has that been like?
Well, it's been in some ways very similar because I've certainly, again, like you said, I've done this. This will be the third time now as a head coach, first at UNLV, then TCU. The two most important things when you first get somewhere, or three most important things, I guess, number one is to make sure that the current players feel good about where they are and their situation. Number two is to hire a staff, which we were obviously able to do a great job with that. There are a lot of great coaching staffs in the country, and I'll match ours up against anybody, not just from a recruiting standpoint, but from a teaching and development standpoint. And then the third thing is to define and implement a culture of what we're about, what we stand for, how we're going to operate, how are we going to base our decisions. And so that's been started, but that's not something you just put on paper or put on a wall or anything like that. It's something you have to, promote and work on and live and breathe every single day. And that'll happen step by step, and the compound effect will take care of that over the course of time. So, but in terms of differences, obviously, I'm single, so I made this transition by myself. Both of my children are in college. So that made it a lot easier just to go right on the road. The other times you had family, you had to get squared away, and a housing situation and kids in school and stuff like that. So this has been great in terms of, I miss my children, but just being able to instantly get on the road, go recruiting myself, meet with coaches, interview coaches, bring coaches in, that kind of thing has been great. So, and then from a Texas A&M standpoint, just the size of the university is obviously something that very few people get the opportunity to serve a place like this that is so big, so powerful, fan base is so invested, and that part's been exciting. I know we haven't played a ball game yet. We're living a honeymoon period right now, but everything that I've been told and learned from about this fan base, they seem to be a pretty loyal group. They want to win. I'm sure we'll have our ugly days that people aren't excited about, but I think over the course of time, we'll put a product out there and a program out there that every Aggie can be proud of.
Yeah. You mentioned your two kids. I think you haven't done too much media interviews, but you did at your introductory press conference. You mentioned, I think, that both of them were all on board with you kind of pursuing this challenge. Can you just talk a little bit more about that? And also just give us a little bit of a bio on your two kids and kind of what they're up to.
Yeah, so I have two children. My son Jackson is 21. He'll be 22 in November. I can't believe that. I had already coached a full season of Division I baseball at Clemson by the time I turned 20. Well, I turned 22, and I was coaching that entire year at Clemson at the age of 22. And my daughter is 20. She'll be 21 in January, and they're both students at TCU. They're doing great. They love it there, but they also have become big Texas A&M baseball fans, and they were 9,000% supportive of this. They are both big college baseball fans. They obviously love and adore TCU, but they're also excited about the experiences that playing in this conference will bring. And it's 2 hours and 15 minutes away, 2.5 hours away. So they can get here pretty easily, and I can get back to Fort Worth if I need to. And so it was really a good scenario. And, they knew that, from a personal standpoint, I was seeking a little bit of a life change, both professionally and personally. I was very interested in living a little bit of a smaller town lifestyle, and certainly have found that here. So I'm learning as I go about Bryan College Station, and how things operate, but so far I've just really enjoyed it. It's been outstanding.
Yeah, no, great city. Now you mentioned your coaching staff as well. I felt like that you kind of put together some killers on the staff, and you got that put together in a hurry. I felt like. So how did that staff come together, and how good do you think it is?
Well, I think it's great staff. I think when you look at, from a coaching standpoint, Nate Yeske, Nolan Kane, and Michael Early are all they're really good at what they do, already. And whether it be from a development standpoint on the field and in the batting cages, or whether it be from a recruiting standpoint, they have skins on the wall. So this isn't something that we're hoping is going to have happen. We just need to trust the process, create good synergy among our coaching staff, and do a good job with giving these kids everything they need to be successful. So, Nate Yeske is a guy that I've known for a very long time. He played at UNLV, but he, probably like 5 or 6 years, 7 years before I became the coach at UNLV. He was in professional baseball playing when I was the coach at UNLV, and I remember him coming back and working out at UNLV, and then we just got to know each other through the coaching profession and playing each other when he was at UNLV or Oregon State, and always was able to watch his growth as a coach. Many times when I thought I was going to lose a coach at TCU, we had things lined up for potentially Nate to come there, and or if I was considering going somewhere else, he and I had we've always talked about being together, and this finally worked out at the perfect place at the perfect time. Just kind of the way the good Lord tends to work. So it's the old saying, man makes plans and God laughs. That's definitely what has happened. So, and then Nolan, I've certainly watched Nolan. I knew Nolan as a player, watched his success at LSU and as a professional player, and then just really have again watched his development from afar, both on and off the field. Widely known as just a great person, and obviously then he works hard and he knows what a player looks like, which therefore makes him an outstanding recruiter. But I just, in my short times being around him, that's easy to see that part. But what I've really, in our conversations, I'm really excited about the coach that he is. I think his recruiting expertise and reputation overshadow what kind of coach he is. And because this game, especially in this conference, is not just about recruiting. Everybody's going to have good players, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like we're going to have significantly better players than a place like LSU or Ole Miss or Mississippi State. We just have to make sure we have as good of players and pitchers and develop them. So, and then Michael Early, I knew about him as a player, played up both college and professional. And then Tracy Smith, the former coach at Arizona State, former coach at Indiana, is a good friend of mine. And he called me and just went on and on and on and on. He knew what I was looking for from a hitting standpoint. And then I spoke with Spencer Torkelson, Hunter Bishop, two great super high draft picks. Well, Torkelson was the first pick of draft in 2020. And then I also got a call from Nolan Arenado, who's a teammate now of one of my former TCU players, Matt Carpenter. And Nolan hit a lot with Coach Early in the offseason. And so when you start hearing from guys like that, he's more than just a swing coach. He's a real, has a great offensive mind, has a toughness about him that I like. And so those three guys are outstanding. And that's just our coaches, the support staff that we have. In Jason Hutchins, who's director of baseball operations and been here for 24 years as a player, coach, and administrator. I mean, he's the best at what he does, plain and simple. He obviously knows anything and everything that involves or has anything to do with Texas A&M. So he's been the most valuable resource we could possibly have. Will Fox played for me at TCU for a year, and then I played at McNeese State, then became a coach, and then got into the video and analytics side. So super intelligent young man who has a great feel for the sport. And then they allowed me to create a position here, director of player and program development. And I literally hired the greatest, one of the premier high school coaches in the country. And I hate to even say that because he'll eventually be one of the premier college coaches in the country. A guy named Chuck Box from Hartfield Academy in Mississippi, formerly the head coach at Jackson Prep, two of the in I believe Columbus, Mississippi, 6-time state champion, successful championship junior college coach, 4-year college coach. He's just done everything, and he's really brought a lot just in his short time to the program. So we're all fired up. We had a great retreat last week. Spent 3 days together talking everything from office furniture to bunt defense and everything in between. And every day is not going to be perfect, but it's fun to be around guys that have the same belief system that you do, and just working hard, and great families. We have nine children on the staff under the age of 9, none of which are mine. So I get to kind of play the granddad role. Kids, it's like romper room in here most days, and I get to hang out with them and play with them sometimes, and then kind of send them on their way like a grandparent gets to do. So anyway, it's been awesome, and I really think when you have that type of synergy and great people in your coaching staff, that's certainly going to bleed into the players and really help them achieve their goals.
Yeah, and you've had a lot of success in the past at kind of grooming or developing, hiring assistant coaches. Whitting at Houston coached for you, Vitello and Randy Mazey, I know, and there's probably several others. So how do you feel like you've done that before? And how important is the assistant coaches specifically to success in college baseball?
Well, I mean, I think you look at any organization, the CEO's job, as Urban Meyer likes to say, is to recruit and develop talent and create a culture. And recruiting and developing talent, a lot of times people just think that's for the players. Well, it's also for the coaches too. And so first and foremost, I've always been at places where I've had the resources to be able to go hire people that are already good, right? Todd Whitting was already a successful recruiting coordinator at University of Houston. Tony Vitello was already a great coach and recruiting coordinator at Missouri. Randy Mazey had been a super successable head coach.
Oh, and Kirk Sarlos too, of course.
Yeah, Bill Mosiello, Kirk Sarlos, those guys. Kirk was he had only been coaching for a year when he came to TCU, or a year or two at Cal State Fullerton, his alma mater, after finishing his playing days. So he wasn't nearly as experienced as the other guys, but certainly he's developed into a good coach. So my thing first and foremost is your job is to hire talented people, hopefully that are smarter than you, right? I mean, I don't have any ego in this thing. I could, as long as we win and the players have a great experience and they're good people, then I don't care who gets the credit. It doesn't matter. My job is to kind of navigate the entire ship, right, and hire good people and give them every single tool they need to be successful, and then hold them accountable to that. So some people are afraid to hire coaches that are older than you. Some people are afraid to hire coaches that are more experienced than you, or bring up, and they're afraid of that because of ego, or maybe they're afraid to hire coaches that may be gone to be a head coach in a couple years. I've never been afraid of any of that, because I feel like when that happens, assistant coaches don't get head coaching jobs from losing programs, right? So it's the saying that I use with the players is, when the team goals are met, the individual goals get met. So if we have the kind of success that we should have at Texas A&M over the course of time, and one of our coaches gets a great head coaching opportunity, certainly we're going to try and keep them here. But if they decide to pursue that, then all that does is allow me to go hire the next great coach, and because those guys see a pathway to achieving their own personal goals. So that's pretty much how it happens. And then my job is to set the core values and and coach and maintain the culture of the entire organization. And certainly I have a role on the field as well, coaching whatever position or area of the team that I may be responsible for. And I've done everything. I've done the pitching, I've done the catching, I've done the infield play, I've done the outfield play, I've coached third base, I've coached, I've done it all. And this will be my 31st year. But I just hire good people and then give them every resource and then let them go do what they do best and try not to get in the way, as long as they're helping our guys get better.
Now, you've been at A&M a few months. You took the job in June. Have you been trying to learn all the A&M stuff, kind of the facts and stuff like that? Because you've already been very active recruiting wise, high school as well as transfers. You just come from a place for 18 years, everything that you want to sell about TCU to a prospect, right? And so what's it like? How are you selling A&M? And how are you kind of learning the different pros that you can throw out there from Texas A&M specifically?
Well, certainly, you just do a lot of research, meet with other coaches, Ross Bjork, our athletic administration, academics. Having Jason Hutchins here has been just a massive help. He's been here 24 years and this is his third coaching staff that he's worked for. So that's been, a lot of our early success really needs to be credited to Hutch because he's been the glue of keeping this entire thing together. Number one, just keeping me sane through some of these crazy moments that we've had in the first 2 months. But the more every single day I learn something new about how incredible and powerful this place is. The fact that it's the number 8 public university in the United States. It's the fact that there's only there's the only school in the SEC West that's ranked in the top 70 of the U.S. News and World Report academic rankings, is Texas A&M. And, we produced more Fortune 500 CEOs than any other university. That's crazy, right? Yeah. When you consider the Ivy League and stuff like that. And so just this such a great academic institution. And then the power of this degree is that Aggie network, that Aggie ring. Aggies take care of Aggies. That's something that we've just beyond the baseball. It's hard to have a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old understand that at this age. But we try to educate them as best we can. A lot of the parents recognize that. But when you look at the 3 areas that I believe that most people make their decision, recruits make their decision, academics, player development, and team success, we are going to rank very, very high in all of those. And the ones that we aren't ranking high in right now, that's our job, is to have the team success be the championships and, regional, super regional, College World Series appearances, and hopefully one day a national title. So, it really is an amazing place. And I just get more and more impressed by it every single day.
Right. And do you remember the first time we met when I interviewed you for my first book that I wrote about A&M?
I do.
Yeah, that was in Houston. And I think what people need to know is that right when you meet you come off as very smart and very smooth and friendly. And so is that something that, and I could see how you could be a very effective recruiter and why you were able to get so much talent wherever you were at. So is that kind of a skill that you felt like you have naturally? Or is that something that you kind of had to develop yourself as kind of a younger coach getting older?
I'm not sure if I ever want to be described as smooth because that sounds like you're not genuine.
No. But just even when because I was a young interviewer, right? And I would kind of maybe not know what to ask or something. And then you would just kind of know how to keep the conversation going and stuff like that. And made me feel comfortable, even though we didn't know each other at all. And so,
I'll just say, I had great parents, parents divorced when I was young, but they're still awesome parents. And I had great high school coaches. Coaches have always been a big part of my life. The old Billy Graham saying that, a coach will affect more people in 1 year than most people affect in a lifetime. And that's definitely rung true with me. I don't have that many hobbies. I like to fish every now and then. I don't play golf. I grew up hunting and fishing until went to high school, and then I haven't hunted since then. Not saying I wouldn't pick that back up, but my point is, like, I love my job. I think this is a lifestyle, not an occupation. And I really am a fan of coaches, and I study coaches. Whether it be their press conferences or go to practice or watch what they do. And then, so that would be one thing. And then I've been so lucky as when I became a coach, starting at Elon, all the way through now, where I've just been around the best, whether it be Bill Wilhelm at Clemson, Rick Jones, really the guy that got me into coaching and was my college coach at Elon. And then who I worked for 8 years at Tulane. I really got to watch what a great program builder that Coach Jones was. And of course, when you're at Tulane, you're 70 miles away from LSU when Skip Bertman's winning 5 national championships in the 90s, and you get to see that up close and personal. And then go to UNLV, TCU, and now here. And I've just learned, not just from the people that I've worked for, the people that I've worked with. I've learned a lot from Buddy Goldsmith. I learned a lot from Randy Mazey. Learned a lot from Bill Mosiello and everybody else in between. So I've just tried to pay attention to those things. And I'm 51 years old, but I became a head coach at 30, and so I've been doing this a while. And I've made so many mistakes, screwed up so bad, and thankfully, that's how you learn. Is you make mistakes and then you move on from it. And just like I'll preach to our players, good, for instance, good players learn from their mistakes. Great players learn from other people's mistakes. And so same thing as a coach, you try and watch and learn how to do things or how not to do things, and then gradually form your own processes. But I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't want to be known as smooth. But I do want to be known as honest and genuine.
Right. Definitely. And you mentioned you like to study other coaches. That's something I like to do as well, even though I'm not a coach. Who are some coaches that you have liked the best, whether you know them personally, met them at all or not, but just kind of from what you've read and seen, who are some that you respect very highly and like to study?
So many. If there's something written about Nick Saban, I read it or watch it or listen to it. I've never met Coach Saban. I've never met Urban Meyer. I'm a big football fan. I'm a big believer in the values and principles that the sport of football teaches you. That's why I'm such a believer in multi-sport athletes. Obviously, John Wooden, Tom Landry. I'll study just about. Some of my when I was, one of the great things about coaching at TCU was being so close to Major League Baseball. So being around Buck Showalter, being around Ron Washington every day or a lot of days. Jeff Bannister is one of my very dearest friends in my life. And so the opportunity to, if I had a free moment, to jump in the car and drive 25 minutes over to the ballpark at Arlington and, sit in the coach's lounge and listen to those guys or be around the batting cage, you just learn a lot. And I've always been able to do that. My first athletic director was a guy named John Robinson, who's in the College Football Hall of Fame, was a Hall of Fame coach at USC and UNLV, coaching the NFL for the Rams. And, I've just been very, very lucky. And now here, going over to football practice and watching Coach Fisher do what he does, or Coach, Buzz Williams, or Coach Blair. I met Pat Henry the other day, and that was, that is just an icon. So I look forward to conversations with guys like that, and I try to write things down or put something in my phone, and go home and say, hey, what were the 2 or 3 takeaways from that interaction? And it was great. So yeah, it's rip off and duplicate, basically. That's really what a lot of things are.
Yep. I think I read Urban Meyer, one of his books, I think it came out in 2014. And I do the same thing. If I see a really good quote, I'll put it in my phone. I think the one that I like from his, it was, talent is a gift, greatness is a choice. Right. And that book was a lot about leadership and kind of how he goes about leading his team and building a culture. So I'm sure that one is kind of what you're talking about with that. Do you read a lot of books?
Yes, I try to. Now podcasts have become my thing. So I would encourage you to go to Apple Podcasts. A guy named, I think it's called Focus 3, something like that. Tim Kite interviews Urban Meyer. It's about 15 or 20 series on culture and leadership and coaching. It is absolute must. I've probably listened to the whole series 3 or 4 different times. And, I've never met Coach Meyer, but I'm just a big believer in culture and that is a real living, breathing thing. A guy named John Gordon has become a really good friend of mine, who, his series on leadership and his work is just off the chart. So, and it's what's beautiful is it's applicable to athletics, business, running your family, everything. So, I try to call myself a lifelong learner, always try and find a way to either do it a little bit better or a little bit different so you don't become stale.
Yep. I know Coach Childers really liked John Gordon as well. So that's good. Couple more things. You told me a story the last time we talked, and I never heard it before, where you got your first job at Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that one? You were just at I think you were at the camp, working the camp. Could you tell us that story again?
Yeah, so I graduated college in 1992 and at Elon College right outside of Burlington, North Carolina, in between Greensboro and Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And Elon at the time was an NAIA school, and they never had a paid assistant coach of any kind. And the athletic director there was one of my professors, and he said, "Hey, we really want you to come back to Elon and be a graduate assistant." And so they were going to pay for my graduate school. They were going to give me a place to live on campus for free, and they were going to give me a meal ticket in the cafeteria. So I was like, free food, free place to stay, free college. What else do you need, right? And so I'm like, I'm all in. This was in June, right after I graduated. And I said, I'm going to go. I had been working baseball camps for a couple summers at Georgia Tech, Clemson, Elon. And I said, hey, I'm going to go work these camps because that allowed me to, become a better coach, allowed me to learn, allowed me to meet people, and allowed me to make some money, some spending money so I could make my car payment and do all that kind of stuff. So I left. I worked camp for 6 or 7 weeks at Georgia Tech, 3 weeks at Clemson. And in my very last day of my very last week of camp in August of that summer, Bill Wilhelm, who had been the coach at Clemson for 37 years, called me into the office. And I hadn't known this because I wasn't a Division I coach, but the rules changed. There was a cut in scholarships and there was a change in coaching staffs. They cut coaching staffs from basically unlimited to a head coach, one full-time assistant coach paid, a thing called a restricted earnings coach that only allowed a coach to make $12,000 during the academic year and $4,000 a year in the summer. And then this new thing called a volunteer coach, which we still have today.
Yeah.
And Clemson had a head coach and 3 full-time assistants, and Randy Mazey went from full-time to restricted earnings. And a guy named Michael Spires, who was a great player at Clemson, he was getting paid full-time, and they said, hey, if you want to stay, you got to work for free. And I don't know if he was married or with children or whatever, but he was like, no, thanks, I'm out. And so it was just being in the right place at the right time. And Coach Wilhelm had watched me run the pitching station in camp.
Yeah.
And he was 67 and I was, let me see, I hadn't turned 22 yet. I was 21 years old. And he called me in the office and said, hey, we have this new thing called a volunteer coach. How would you like to come help me coach the pitchers? And of course I was like, Clemson University, are you crazy? Where do I sign up? So I drove back to Elon. I packed up my 1986 Honda Accord with everything that I had and drove back to Clemson and went to work. And that's how I got into Division I coaching.
That's crazy. And you were pretty much the pitching coach right away, or?
No. Coach Wilhelm coached the pitchers in the fall, and I would just help. I'd watch bullpens with them, or I'd take half the pitchers onto a backfield and do their pitchers fielding practice, PFP stuff. And then we came back in January, and for the most part, he said, you got them, you go coach them. And so I would, that was crazy. We had one pitcher on the team named Chad Phillips, who was a 5th-year senior, who was actually 6 months older than me. But yeah, he gave me a lot of responsibility, and that it turned out okay. We ended up we won over 40 games. We won the ACC tournament that year in Greenville, South Carolina, and we played in a regional in Knoxville, Tennessee, in the spring of 1993. And then when that ended, Rick Jones became the coach at Tulane, and I left Clemson to go be that restricted earnings coach at Tulane, and just carried my career on from then.
So was that Clemson gig the same deal where food, they paid for your room?
No, you couldn't do any of those things.
So you had to pay for everything yourself.
Had to pay for everything myself. And then actually, in the first year of volunteer coaches, the volunteer coach wasn't allowed to dress for the road games. You could only dress for the home games. So I actually would travel with the team, but I had to pay my own way, had to pay for my room, had to pay for, and I had saved that money up from camp, maybe $5,000. Mm-hmm. And I just was able to live off of that $5,000 for most of the year. I had my teaching certificate because I was an education major. So I did substitute teach in Clemson and Seneca, South Carolina, from time to time to make some money. But for the most part, I lived off that $5,000. Yeah. And thank goodness Coach Jones got a full-time job that next summer, because I was running out of money. And then I went and made a cool $12,000 or $16,000 over the next year, and I thought that was a heck of a lot of money back in those days.
Definitely. So I guess the advice to any young coach is work as many camps as you can, because you never know what's going to happen.
Well, I just think you just go out there and work. What you mean? You just put your nose down. You can't be working thinking about your next job. You just do a heck of a job with whatever, kind of be where your feet are. It sounds cliche. Do as good a job as you possibly can with the job you're currently in, and keep your blinders on and go to work on that. And good things happen to good people that work hard. And I think that's all you can control. And the good Lord has a plan for everybody. And I think if you trust that and just work your rear end off, it'll all go the way it's supposed to go.
Yep. Last question. That all is great. And last question for you, Coach. Really appreciate all the time you've given me today. And one of the things that coaches that coach at really good schools have to deal with is recruiting really good players. A lot of times they're going to have their eyes on the MLB draft as well. So what are the relevant facts that you kind of make in your pitch that people need to know, as far as you should go to college rather than straight to the MLB draft?
Well, we could do an entire podcast on that, so I don't want to go too crazy on it. But
let's say I'm a stud left-handed hitter, right, position player, and what are some of the things that you would talk about briefly?
Well, I have a 40-page PowerPoint on this topic, but the bottom line is this. I would say, Heath, do you want to be a pro player or do you want to be a major league player? Because there's a big difference. And what people tend to do in this decision is they get emotional because it's the sport of baseball. And that's the thing you can't do. Just like you would buy a house or buy a car or make a big life decision, you would go do the research. And when you look at the research, it's not even close. On any given day, between 52 and 55% of the players in the major leagues went to college. On any given day, between 26 and 30% of the players in the big leagues aren't from the United States. Like they're Latin, Asian, from other great baseball parts of the world. And then the remainder are the kids that signed out of high school. And so it's simple. By going to college from a pure baseball standpoint, I think, 8 or 9 of our last 10 major league players from TCU have all made the big leagues within 18 months to 2 years of leaving our campus. So, if you talk to any professional baseball player, the minor league lifestyle is really tough. And you want to spend as little time as you possibly can in minor league baseball. And there are great people in professional baseball, awesome people in professional baseball. But I just believe the development system in college baseball, especially at the highest level of college baseball, is as good or better than most of those places. And I mean, I can tell you, if I have a job opening on my staff at Texas A&M or when I was at TCU, I would get literally hundreds of emails and phone calls and resumes from people in professional baseball. The opposite doesn't happen. College coaches aren't looking to coach in minor league baseball. And so Nate Yeske has turned down 4 or 5 major league pitching coach opportunities to stay in college baseball. So we could talk about this forever, but I do believe, the development system in college baseball at the highest level is the best. And I also believe that the personal development, what you learn in college, how you learn to handle being on your own at 18, 19, and 20 years old, better prepares you for professional baseball. So, and the lifestyle of the minor leagues, so you can go out and you understand how to pay your rent. You understand how to live on your own. You understand how to interact with different people, you're just a more physically, emotionally, and intellectually mature person to be able to go out into that business, because that's what it is. It's a business. And people will say, well, what about the money? Well, bonuses aren't bonuses for most people. Bonuses are advances on salary, right? If somebody gives you $1 million before taxes and you sign at a high school, and let's say the average time to the major leagues for a high school player is about 7 years, 6 or 7 years. And everything's a bell curve. You can definitely get examples of the kids playing for the Blue Jays, Dante Bichette Jr. or whatever his name is, or Bichette. What's that?
Bo Bichette.
Yeah, Bo Bichette, who's made it really quick. So there are certainly outliers, but you don't normally base life decisions on outliers. You base life decisions on the norm, right? And every kid and every mom and dad want to think their kid is the one outlier. And in my opinion, that's not how you base life decisions. And so $1 million after taxes, and then you pay your advisor, you buy a car. Now you have to live off that money, right? In minor league baseball, you don't make a lot of money and you only get paid for the months in which you play. You don't get paid during spring training and you don't get paid in the off season. So you have to live off of that. So it's not a bonus. It's an advance on salary. So if you take that, a bonus is I can take this chunk of money and send it over here. I don't have to live off of it and I can let it grow. That's a bonus, right? But most guys who are signing, $1 million, $1.5 million, that's not changing your life. That may change your life for 1 or 2 years, if you want to go spend it and live lavishly and that kind of thing. But that's not changing your life over the course of time. And then, you can get into we haven't even talked about the degree, the opportunity to go get either your degree or three quarters of your degree complete. Because if you sign out of high school, nobody goes back to college. You may take classes online. You may, do an online University of Phoenix thing at some point, but that's taking classes. It's not college. And you and I both know the best part of college is actually that it's college. It's actually not the baseball. It's actually not taking classes. It's everything else. It's growing up with people your age, having those life experiences, developing friends for life, meeting, what could be your mate, your soulmate, your wife or husband. And so I'm just, no disrespect to professional baseball. I want that for our players. I want them to play in the major leagues. I just believe that going to college is the best route to do that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I can confirm that the classes themselves were not the best part of college. And that was awesome. I agreed with all of that. Talked to a lot of college baseball coaches, and they all pretty much have the same overall stuff, but I've never heard the advance on salary part of it as used kind of as that phrase. But I thought that was very good, very smart, and I like that a lot. So really appreciate that, Coach. That's all the questions I got for you today. Again, welcome to Texas A&M. Hope you're enjoying College Station. It's a great city. And hopefully we can get you back on in the spring sometime, and we can talk about the 2022 Texas A&M Aggies.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks for having me. Gig 'em.
Thank you for watching that episode of Clary's Corner. I hope you enjoyed it. Now you have to go to thejucolife.com to learn more about my book, The JUCO Life. Even though it is not a huge topic, junior college baseball, it still is one that's very important to college and professional baseball teams. And really, there's never been a book like mine to dive into everything, every aspect of JUCO baseball, what makes it so special, so pure, and so beneficial. So again, that website is thejucolife.com to go learn more about my book. And definitely after you buy it, go review it on Amazon. Hopefully it's 5 stars. And then go be a force multiplier. Go tell a couple other people that you know who like baseball or sports in general about the JUCO Life. Share the website with them, because I promise you they will enjoy it as well. Also, don't be afraid to share it on social media. Subscribe to the show if you like Clary's Corner. Share it with family members too, and so that you never miss an episode. Thank you very much. This is Heath Clary with Clary's Corner. God bless.